Now I'm standing on hill number 1, a Bloody Ridge, and if you look in the distance there, that's the north. That's hill number 2. That's where we're standing. It's about 600-700 yards. Then over to the right is the spine of Bloody Ridge. Like I said, the Kunai grass is fairly high today. It's the best time to see it when it's burned or cut down, but you can see the spine. It went straight down. And like I mentioned earlier, during the actual time of the battle and during the rest of the campaign, the top of this hill is just grass, because it's with coral. There's hardly any trees growing, and then in the ravines and at the bottom of the hill line was all thick jungle, very thick jungle. So pan around, you'll see the hills to the south there. This is nice and flat and open. I've got some photos. It was taken right after the battle, so this is all open area. So I'm walking to a small monument. Like I said, the Japanese had a very large monument here pre-tension day. It was 99 and 2000, but this is the only one that's left. I think they moved the other ones to the central police station now. If you ever go there, it's there. Like I said before, you'll see all the garbage the locals drink here. Unfortunately, on the weekends, it's national park. Definitely needs some security, but not to distract from the actual monument. So this is Memorial Tower, and there was a tower, used to be, like I said, in 1999, and they saved it, fortunately. It was actually taken to the scrap dealer, and then one of the local expats seen it and recognized what it was and saved it. It was a large copper peace bell the Japanese had, so it was placed on a tower. I'll see if I can find a photo of it. It's very beautiful then and very nice, but this is the only thing left. Memorial Tower. I don't know what that says in Japanese. I guess it actually says that. The Guadalcanal War dead in AD 1942. I think it's Japanese writing 1985, so I guess it was obviously put here in 1985. But the 2nd Division, Isumu Society. Now, 2nd Division, I know I'm talking about the September the 12th, 14th, 1942 Battle of Bloody Ridge or Edson's Ridge. The 2nd Division wasn't here then. Now, they were dedicating this to the October battle, which was a large offensive, the largest offensive and the last offensive the Japanese had. And I'll cover that in another episode, but I'll walk over here to it. The 2nd Sendai Division moved around Mount Austin, roughly 8,000 to 9,000 of them. It was actually a surprise move, and it was actually a good plan by the Japanese. And in the thick jungle below us, in that direction, was where they attacked. And that's the October 24th, 25th, 26th battle. Some of you might be familiar with that. It's called the Battle of Henderson Field. That's where John Basilone, the Marine that earned the Medal of Honor, and the famous Marine Chesty Puller earned the Navy Cross here. And it was a good action. And then the 164th Army National Guard Regiment first became in combat here and did a very good job. But I'll cover that in a later episode, because that's a very rarely visited side of the battlefield because it's so thick. The Coffin Corner Battle of Henderson Field. So that's what that tower is dedicated to, the 2nd Division, which lost thousands of men here. So pan over. There's some locals going to church, they said, which is a Sunday morning. And during the time of the battle, all this thick grass wasn't here. In fact, in August last year, this was completely burned. It shows how fast the grass grows. Now, it just gives you a little bit of indication. I'm walking down a path. This is the Kunai grass. A real thick grass on a very hot day. It gets, a few degrees actually hotter in here. And the Marines and the Army and the Japanese had to contend with this. And this is actually thin Kunai grass. And if you never went through it, especially if you're trying to pull yourself up a hill, you grabbing these things, it'll slice your hand wide open. All right, and it has a lot of wait a minute vines in here, which is like the little prickly vines, with stickers as we used to call them when I grew up in Alabama. But when you're hot and frustrated, you don't go too far, especially if you're the lead guy cutting brush. You can imagine if you're moving through here, and your enemy could be right there, and you wouldn't see them till they actually shot you or stuck a bayonet in you. All right, so moving down the front slope. You'll see some remnants of some bunkers. Bunker holes, you can see some, that's just someone digging in the hole, but here's a good bunker hole. Then you look out over the front of the ridge. Now, I'll post a photo here. It shows a trench line that ran right below the military crest the Marines had. It's about a 4-foot trench with bunkers every 15 or 20 yards, machine gun bunkers. Like I said, during the actual time of the battle in September, the Marines just had a shallow trench, a few false holes. But after September, this became the permanent Marine line and Army line until February '43. So you're looking straight down the southern line. So it line basically followed that ridge there. You might see in the distance a hut. Hey, that's a Nissan hut or a Quonset hut. You know, that was a later addition when, after the campaign, when the actual New Zealand Air Force moved in this area and occupied it, and they built some permanent structures in here. So during the time of the battle, that was all thick jungle, very thick jungle. The locals have cleared it since. You'll see a small ridge line over there. That was where Major General Kawaguchi, the Japanese commander, he was either on that open Carl ridge line there, or the next one right beside it. That was where he controlled the battle from. So the night of the battle, both nights, the Japanese, they came basically from that direction, which is east, southeast. They moved around through the thick jungle, and their assembly points are right below us in the thick jungle down there. And that's where they started their attacks from. So I'll walk down here before I go back and get in actual detail of the battle. I'll show you some remnants of some barbed wire. And like I said before, the Marines only had 8 spools of barbed wire. So I think they only put 1 strand out. The barbed wire I'm about to show you is from the later fortifications where the Marines could put 3 strands of barbed wire when they had fixed fortifications. You can imagine with these bunkers, 3 strands of barbed wire, registered artillery, especially in the middle of the night, if you was a Japanese soldier trying to charge. I don't know if you can see how steep that is, but trying to charge up that hill. In the actual October battle, I've seen the Japanese attack plans. Their attack plans are actually to replicate what they did in the September battle, attack straight up this hill. But due to thick jungle and the confusion, they got pushed more to the east and through the thick jungle and attacked straight up, which is probably kind of fortunate for them, but it didn't turn out in their best interest. So if we go through here, yeah, here's a good example of a barbed wire line. Really got to watch where you step, and I bring a lot of people in here, and sometimes they'll trip on the barbed wire, so you got to be very, very careful. So, I don't know if you can see it. There's examples of pigtail, thick barbed wire. And you see the line. It basically goes in that direction. That's the first one, and then right below it, I don't know if you can see. Get caught in the barbed wire myself. There's another strand of barbed wire, which is another line, and then there was another line in here. Oh, there's some barbed wire there. You see it? I know sometimes the tourists take the barbed wire and they take relics from this area, but this is still a national park, and you can imagine if every tourist that came in here, it basically took something, then there would be nothing left. It's actually against the War Relics Act of Solomon Islands to remove anything. We try to keep the locals from taking things and selling them. Sometimes they sell them to the tourists, but you know, someone says, well, it's just going to rot in the ground. But some of the locals, and I've had a few of them walk up to me with a live hand grenade, which isn't that good, and trying to keep the kids from digging up live ordnance and dissuade them. That's just something to think about. I know people like the relics and things and pieces of battle, but you got to think of the long-term implications sometimes. All right, so we'll walk back up to the top of the hill, and I'll show you the area where Charlie Company of the Raiders occupied on the evening, and where the main Japanese attack was at. You can see it very well from up here. So now is looking at Austin. So back on hill 1, very top. Look across the cleared area there between the base of the hill. That's the Lunga River. That's the position that Charlie Company occupied for the first night. This Charlie Company for the 1st Raider Battalion. Now during the time of the battle, there was all thick jungle down there. You couldn't see this far even in daylight, even where we see now. And there was 2 lagoons down there. If you read accounts of the battle, especially when Charlie Company, they mentioned these 2 lagoons, and they were very worried when they first moved in that they had to actually cross the lagoons, and they thought if we had to fight our way out, we'd have to fight back across these lagoons. And I think one lagoon had a log. Charlie wasn't big enough to have maintain a continuous line, so they had small platoon, I guess clusters. There's one good account I was reading of a machine gun team leader in a machine gun squad. They were on the far right, which was actually the river, and they mentioned some of the Japanese during the time of the battle trying to move down the river, and they were engaging them. So read more into the actual battle, and you'll find out more about Charlie Company. And some of them were actually lost, and I've been told their remains are probably still down there somewhere. It might be in the actual lagoons. So I think there's a number of them still down there. That was Charlie Company. And this was actually the site of the first Japanese attack on the night of the 12th. Kawaguchi, the Japanese general, he had 3 battalions. He only had 1 battalion in position to even attack that night. So he did a limited attack straight in the ground below us. And throughout the night, they pushed Charlie Company back. And they pushed Charlie Company back quite a distance. Bravo Company, of the 1st Raiders, was occupying the positions in the front of the hill, which I showed you earlier. I'll walk over in a minute, and I'll show you the actual jeep track that Edson used to divide the line between the Paramarine Battalion and the Raider Battalion. This is the jeep track, or the side of the jeep track. I think the Marine engineers had made it a couple of weeks earlier before the Raiders had moved in September. But this is the line of delineation that Edson used. See, on one side he had his Raider Battalion, and on this side here, which is, if you're looking south, is on the east side. The Paramarine Battalion was on that side. So Bravo Company of the 1st Paramarine Battalion was occupying this side. Let me switch the grass button so long. I'll see if I can see over the grass. And that small spur to the east, if you pan over on this side of the road where I just came from, Bravo Company Raiders occupied the front of Hill 1, and below them to the right hand side, like I said, Charlie Company occupied from about halfway down the hill to the Lunga River.